day students, welcome to San Academy Pallikaranai online session, class 9 biology. Today we are going to start the session with discussing the chapter 5 fundamental unit of life. And this lesson we will be covering what is a cell, and we will be learning in detail about the three main components of cells, that are cell boundaries, cytoplasm and nucleus. And cell boundaries are nothing but plasma membrane and cell wall, and cytoplasm is nothing but the matrix, a ground liquid substance which forms the fluid content of the cell, and it has several number of cell organelles found inside them. And nucleus, we will be learning about nuclear membrane, nucleolus and chromatin network. And the topics that will be covered in this session are the cell and why it is called as the building block of life, and the discovery of cell, the visual aid used for viewing the cell, types of organisms based on number of cells that make up the organism, is all cells are similar in shape and function, if not why, and division of labor in cell. The cell, the building block of life. As we all know, the earth is inhabited with a number of living organisms, from tiny small creatures to huge gigantic animals. And no matter how big or small an organism is, all these organisms are made up of tiny microscopic units. And these microscopic units are called cells. Just like how we cannot construct a beautiful building without walls, and in order to build the walls we know that we need bricks, and so if there is no bricks there is no wall, and if there is no wall there is no new building. The same way, if the cells are not there we cannot have any organs, and without organs we cannot have any organ system, and finally there will not be any organisms, and hence the cell is called as the building block of life. And the cell not only gives the structural support to the organism, it also acts as a fundamental unit of life. As we all know, every living organism, to survive on this earth, they have to perform certain basic metabolic activities like eating, respiring and excreting, and all these basic metabolic activities are performed by the cell also. That too, each and every cell can perform these activities independently, that is without depending on the other cells, and hence we call the cell as the fundamental unit of life. Now let us discuss about the discovery of cell. And this discovery of the cell was not actually a planned one, and it was an accidental or a by chance discovery. The English scientist named Robert Hooke, when he was observing a thin slice of cork under his primitive microscope, he was able to see the number of tiny compartment like structures, that is box like structures, which were resembling the structure of a honeycomb, and inside each box like structure he was able to see a dark spherical dot like structures too, and he called these tiny compartments as cells. And actually he derived this word cell from a Latin word called cellulae, and in Latin the word cellulae means little rooms. And this accidental discovery later became a remarkable discovery in the field of biology, especially in cell biology. And in the slide you can see three pictures, and from the left the first picture shows the microscopic view of the corks, and the second picture is the primitive microscope which was used by the scientist. And the third is the actual picture of how a cork looks like. A cork is nothing but it is the bark of a tree, and it is generally used in order to close the wine bottles and etc. And the word primitive means a basic model of microscope, or a microscope without any advanced technologies. And let us discuss about few more important discoveries in the field of cell biology. It was in 1674 A. van Leeuwenhoek who studied the living cell for the first time, because the cell which was studied by Robert Hooke was actually a dead cell. And Leeuwenhoek, he took 2 to 3 drops of pond water and placed it under the microscope, and he was able to see the mobility of the cell. And in 1831 it was Robert Brown who discovered and named the dark spots. which Robert Hooke observed in each compartment, that is, in each cell, as nucleus. In 1838 to 39, M.J. Scladen and Squam formulated the cell theory, and it was stated in the cell theory that all the living organisms, both plant and animals, and all the other living organisms are also made up of cells, and they in the cell theory, they also stated that the cell is the basic unit of life. In 1839, Purkinje coined the term protoplasm because the cell is generally defined as the protoplasmic mass enclosed by membrane, and which we will be discussing in detail in the further session. And in 1855, the cell theory was further expanded by Virchow, and he suggested that all the cell arises only from the pre-existing cells. That is, all the new cells arises only from the pre-existing cell. And the microscope was discovered in 1940. And in the bottom of the slide, I have given you the pictures of these remarkable scientists. Thank you.